Welcome back to our 2026 Winter Virtual Club Development Series. I'm Jocelyn Poirier. I'm the Manager of Rugby Development at Rugby Ontario. I use she, her pronouns. And before we begin today's session, just a quick reminder to keep your microphones muted while you're listening. Use the chat for questions and comments, although you'll have opportunity to join in the discussion as well with our speakers. And we encourage you to leave your cameras on so we know who we're talking to, but do know that this is being recorded to be shared as well. I'm coming to you from Gananoque, Ontario, traditional territory of the Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, land covered by the Crawford Purchase of 1783. And the name Gananoque is itself of Indigenous origin, with many different interpretations. And the land, including the surrounding islands, has been home to or visited by Indigenous communities dating back tens of thousands of years. Rugby Ontario and our member clubs and all of you are situated on traditional Indigenous territories across the province, and in some cases today, across the country or globe. So I invite us all to reflect on our privilege to live, work, and play on these lands that have been and continue to be stewarded by Indigenous peoples across countless generations. If you would like to acknowledge the lands you are joining from today, please do so in the chat. Now, today we have a special bonus lunch and learn session for us with our friends from Mixed Ability Sport, International Mixed Ability Sport. And as many of you know, mixed ability has been slowly growing across our province. So we're happy to be able to highlight this and share some information for many of our clubs that have maybe been curious and not quite gotten the start on it, or who are involved and are looking to continue to grow and expand their community of mixed ability rugby. So I will pass it over to our group of speakers here. We have Mark Goodwin, Martino Peraza, Ella Skye, Elliot Smith, and Jade Powell. And I will let them introduce themselves as they speak to us. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm co-founder of International Mixed Ability Sport, or IMAS, and I also helped co-found England's first mixed ability rugby team, the Bumblebees Barbarians, who I had the pleasure of pulling on a Yorkshire shirt for yesterday, which is our province.
I should go next then. My name is Martino. I'm the other co-founder and director at International Mixed Ability Sports. Originally played rugby in Italy with the first mixed ability team in Turin, but I've left rugby, so sorry guys. I'm a very disappointing kind of person now because I don't play rugby anymore, and I switched my allegiance to rowing, so shame on me. But I'll pass then to Ella. Do you want to go next?
Yep, I'm Ella. I'm an IMAS trainer and a non-executive director of IMAS. I play mixed ability rugby for Yeovil Rugby Club, which is in Somerset, which is southwest England.
Do you want to nominate someone, Ella?
Elliot?
My name is Elliot Smith, and I'm 26 years old, and I have autism and ADHD, and my pronouns are he/him. I currently work as a physical fitness and literacy associate at the Abilities Center in Whitby, and I am also a mixed ability sport facilitator as well at the Abilities Center in Whitby. I also am one of the members of the Rainbow Griffins Rugby Football Club team in downtown Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Jade, I guess that's you.
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm a national rugby player and play for Oshawa Vikings.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Thank you for hosting us today. And it's really nice to be introduced as a bonus. It makes me feel really special that we are the bonus offer. We've got a short presentation to run by you today. Again, we are an organisation who believe in using the voices of our participants who've got lived experience of disability or other barriers to playing sports and the rugby community in the UK and indeed now across Europe and into Canada. Is probably the most pioneering sport in the world in terms of inclusion. So hopefully you'll get that message from our short presentation today. So I'm just going to go through this rigmarole now of trying to get the screen to go over to the presentation. So bear with me, I'm not the fastest. Okay, so I need to find
while Scooters is trying to find the presentations, I think we do acknowledge that there is a great deal of experience here. We know some of the faces, so thank you for the work that you're doing in promoting mixability. But even if you are new to that and you're just curious, please, let's try to keep it quite informal. So, we've been working for almost kind of 20 years on that, but, doesn't mean that we have all the answers. So it's just to give a kind of brief overview about how we came about, what mixability rugby is. But yeah, please feel free to either put questions in the chat or just interact. That's why we're here.
Okay, I won't be able to see you or anybody in the chat. So if it's me that's talking, please bring me to a halt and throw any questions out there. I'm not here to be a single voice. I want to just really run the presentation. So I'm going to let the rest of the IMAS guys take over after this slide. So IMAS, we always feel it's important to kind of give an overview of where we're at and what we represent. So there's quite a clear line here in England about what's a charity, what represents a charity, and what the charitable model means. And to be clear from the start, we decided not to go down the route of becoming a charity, because we felt that what we're doing and these changes in society really are not a charitable matter. They are more of a kind of political movement and a way to bring about a fantastic change through sport, and in particular through rugby, which has been, as I said before, the flagship. So with that, I'll hand back to Martino.
Yeah, as Mark was saying, so our background, so at least mine and Mark's background, is education and social care, and that's how we came across instances of people who wanted to be included in using quotation mark normal community sports, just being members. And we do acknowledge that sports and physical activity is a journey for every one of us. It starts at a very young age and hopefully carries on throughout our lives. And it's good to have different offers. But it's also good to have the possibility to choose the rules of our engagement with it, and we'll talk more about how it came about. But for some people, that's not really a choice. So what we're trying to do with mixability is just to fill that gap and try to allow people of all abilities, with several barriers of participation, to be equal members in community sports, whichever the sports that they like. And try to learn from one another, and try to live a project that is sustainable through time.
I think that's a fair summary there. And if anybody is a non-reader, this is what our original vision and mission is, and we can talk a little bit more about how that's kind of evolved into a manifesto later on in the presentation. But this is about making change happen in a different way. So the message about mixability is it's not separate. This is everybody coming together to support each other in playing sport, whatever that sport might be. And it creates a new engagement between different communities. And that, I think, will be a big takeaway for everyone from today. But meanwhile, this is the story as told through the voices of mixability participants.
People say I cannot play.
People said we could get hurt.
They say they didn't have anyone like me at the club.
They say I have to wear a coloured bib.
They said they had to change the rules for me.
They said I'm not good enough.
Look how far we came!
I'm a member with mixability.
With mixability, I fit in.
With mixed ability, we're just another team. playing in our local clubs just like everyone else. Some of us have disabilities, some of us don't.
Some of us have been through a tough time or are recovering from an illness.
Some of us have come back to the sport we love.
Whatever your passion, whatever your sport, whatever your ability, the journey starts with you. To become a mixed ability champion or to find out more, please contact IMAS through our social media channels or on our website. We can't wait to hear from you.
Martina, shall I pick this one up? Or Ella, you've met Anthony, haven't you?
Yeah,
You know his
I could
backstory.
do it.
Perfect.
Anthony wanted to play rugby, and his local he was a water boy for his local club, but they wouldn't let him play, because he has learning disabilities and cerebral palsy. The only rugby that he was offered was tag rugby. But because of his cerebral palsy, he can't play tag rugby because he can't grab the tags. He wanted to play proper full contact rugby. So in a class that was with Gooders, they helped Gooders helped him write a letter to the RFU or some local clubs, and to see if they could get some players together, like at his local club, to see what they could, if they could like start a team, and then they started the Bumblebees, which is the England's first mixed ability team.
Ella?
And because of the work he's done, he's been awarded the British Empire Medal in 2023.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that he's been recognised by the national governing body. Although I will add to that this is very much a grassroots movement. It comes from you. You're the club members. Within every club, there are champions and drivers, and the clubs the teams that are most successful and long-lived and sustainable come from within clubs. So that's where our ethos is. That this is a movement that is bottom up and not top down. It's great that Rugby Ontario are on board. It's great that we have local support now from Yorkshire Rugby here, who played the first county game yesterday. But that has come about because of clubs like yours leading the way and making the changes. Martino?
Yeah, and to some extent, is much more important to have clubs on board because being kind of, a sort of political movement, as Guzer was saying, we know that the change at the top will happen when there's enough momentum and the tipping point is reached at the bottom level. So, it's important that, all your voices feed up into those who make decision and say, it's great to have all these different offers, and mixability can legitimately be one of them. But for a long time, and because we all come from education and social care, we do know that especially people with disabilities have been allocated some spaces. I mean, first of all, we know they've been excluded altogether. But especially thinking about sport, we do all recognize the Paralympic movement and Special Olympics, and that's great. But we also need to acknowledge that people like Anthony, and I'm sure we'll hear all the stories later on. There's a great value in just being an equal member of your community club, wearing the same jersey, playing with the same rules, and going on tour and having the same kind of social experience that we want to have. And although we're talking about sports, we believe that this is kind of transferable to any other level of society. The same kind of exclusion has happened in the job market, happened in education, the same barriers, people experience when they go to the local GP. So maybe through sport, and this is what we're trying to achieve with IMAS, we can try to break down the other barriers and making sure that, whatever your ability, whatever your needs, you can be supported to achieve what you want to achieve. Do you want to go to the next one, Gudus?
Sure. I think historically it has been a natural viewpoint, I think, for collectively society to think that disability is a difficult thing to deal with. That people are not getting up the stairs, and there's all of the traditional ones, all of the things that the easy fixes, if you like, are people have traditionally been seen as difficulty and awkwardness and creating a problem for an organization or for a boss or for an individual. And we are glad to be at this point, I think, in time where we're turning that around and using the voices of people with disabilities to do that as well.
And just a simple point, I mean, when we talk about, disabilities, we all know, very broad concept, and it's something that we can all experience throughout our lives for many different reasons. But, there is also some legislation in place. So it's important that we remember that people have the right to have separate provisions, have the right to be, they needs to be met. But also, it's important that we have big conventions on people's rights that says, people with disability should be allowed and be supported in having equal participation in mainstream settings. And again, it's not an either or. Everything coexists in a pathway. And we do believe that mixability helps in fulfilling this vision. So the social model of mixability is one of the pillars that supports IMAS, and we see people as assets. And this is something that, especially what Mark was saying, one of the big barriers for clubs sometimes is just the first approach, is that kind of fear factor of diversity, whether that is disability, people who speak a different language, or people who have different skin color, or whatever that is, and just making sure that clubs can just open the doors and recruit more participants. At the end of the day, we do believe that this is also the main interest of national governing bodies. We know that clubs need to have members to be sustainable, to leave a legacy, to make sure they are viable, and mixability is just another team within the club, and that can help with that.
And just to add on to that, I think it's really essential that the fear factor. So, okay, not knowing the right words to say to somebody and address them in the right language. By language, I mean how to address a specific disability or a specific impairment. When you've got trainers who are neurodiverse, who have got autism or ADHD or both, or who do have a limb impairment, all of those things, when they are teaching you, it suddenly, the room becomes warmer because they're not scary. And I think a lot of resistance, and certainly, as Martina said, initial resistance, is from people being afraid of getting things wrong. So we try and smooth that out. IMAS is above all a support organisation, but also an educational organisation that utilises the skills of people with lived experience. Ella, this is an old favourite, I think, about how mixed ability kind of goes the next step.
Yeah, the first picture shows all of the children have been provided with the same amount of crates, but the first person can see very well, the second person just a little bit, and the person on the end can't see at all, so it's not equal at all. The second picture, they've been provided a different amount of crates, so they can all kind of see, but they're not involved at all. The third picture, the fence has been taken away, so they can all see the whole game, but still they are not included. And in the fourth picture, they've all got a shirt, a number, and they are on the team. They are involved in what's going on.
And we did a little experiment where we asked clubs if they were inclusive, and all of them gave us an example of how they were inclusive, and they were inclusive because they'd had doors widened or a disabled bathroom fitted. They'd had facilities changed or moved around. It was the removal of barriers really that they thought that they were inclusive by, and we suggest that mixed ability is the next step, because this is where clubs actively recruit people who live in their local community but wouldn't ordinarily think about joining a sport or club because they would think it wouldn't welcome them. So that recruitment of new players, new footfall into your clubs is one of the great assets of becoming and having a mixed ability offer. Martina, you can do the hard ones, the negative stuff.
Yeah, I'm negative, the bad cop. And I think again, in terms of activation and people enjoying, relationship with sport, all models are good in the sense, like you have given opportunity. So if you can choose that, that's brilliant. But I think in terms of models, it's important to define what mixability is and is not, because mixability is not a disability sport provision. It's not just for people with disabilities. But I think we go a bit further than that. We see that once, the Bumbles are a great example. For example, they've been going on for 15 years. It's to say that once a project is established, it's not an investment. It's not something that a funders, allows for, the length of a summer or for a few months. It's something that has to be taken care of the kind of the community and the club. So it's not time limited. And it's not a kind of different way of describing disability sports, as we said. That provision is there and is available. So there's nothing wrong with that. There are many overlaps and people can move freely between one or the other. But mixability is very much like for people who perceive themselves as non-disabled and people who recognize themselves as disabled, playing together as equal members. And in that, it's not a special project in the community. Mixability activities don't go on a kind of a Tuesday morning where there's no one else around at the club, for example, but is very much embedded and is, people pay the same membership, wear the same jersey, attend the same functions, use the same rules and same facilities, and is part of the mainstream club. I think we got probably something else good as on the next one still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want me to? I think I've moved it.
Yeah. But I think, the main point probably about that is there's something that at times, and I think there was a question in the chat, and just checking the NSO in Canada means like National Sports Organization. Is that correct? Okay, what we call here national governing bodies. And it is a different situation. Some national governing bodies do support proactively mixability and have mixability embedded as one of their grassroots avenue to increase participation. Some others, they don't officially recognize, but they don't put barriers either. It's very much because we would be allowing everyone to just become a member and use the same regulation. Sometimes there's not even need to class something as mixability because people will be allowed just to register and be part of activities. So it's a kind of fluid situation. And ultimately, in an ideal world, mixability shouldn't exist because anyone could just turn up at a club and say, I want to be a member, and they will say, yes, of course, I will support you to be like that. So our ultimate goal is make ourselves redundant, but we know there's still quite a lot of work to be done, especially around changing perceptions and attitudes and behaviors. So it's not a quick fix, but hopefully it'll plant some seeds for future actions.
Okay, thanks. And rather than us go through a list of all of the different barriers that people have faced and how great and equal an opportunity is, maybe we can just pick one team, for example. So Ella, we'll choose yours. What kind of who's on your team who thought they would never be playing rugby as well as you?
There's a lot of people on my team with hidden disabilities. There's a lot of people that are autistic or have ADHD or both, and as someone that has Tourette's, well, she actually has autism, ADHD, and Tourette's. We used to have a girl that was deaf. I've played against people that have Down syndrome, and learning disabilities. There's people on my team with learning disabilities. There's people on my team that are older people as well.
Great. Yeah, the same. Yesterday, I played in teams where all of those things were represented, and there was some great rugby, and some of the best rugby came from some of the people with disabilities. So this judgment of who can do what and who plays what role will soon be overcome. As you start this up in your clubs, you'll find that your not only will your perceptions change, but you'll find that people who you've played alongside for long time or have been members of your club for a long time will also be more open about their own difficulties and historic problems or current problems that they've had. I think it just changes the language of a club completely by having a mixed ability team in there. Martino, this is a great picture, which we don't use in school parents' evenings, do we, when we're trying to recruit new participants?
No, but I think that goes back very much to Anthony's story at the very beginning. And, when he said, I want to play even if, there is a risk of injury, because I think that was his assessment, that was his mental capacity. He was able to retain the information that, injuries can happen. And as much as we try to, minimize that and try to mitigate that, as soon as you enter into a rugby pitch, it's a contact sport, and you can have all the level of protection you want. Accidents do happen, and so it's important to acknowledge that. And I think this picture from Matthias from Argentina at the first tournament in Bradford, being supported by a teammate also with learning disabilities, which is great, because I think that was the first time that they could actually play contact, and this is just rugby to some extent. So it's important to communicate, and this is our role, to convey the risks in an accessible manner, and making sure that people have the right amount of information in the easiest way to make that informed decision. But at the end of the day, it's not a different sport. It's a contact sport, and these kind of things can happen.
I think just to add to that, and again, referring back to what IMAS does, part of what we do as well is to produce accessible guides. So we do have a kind of a pictorial guide to the risks that you might face on a pitch, playing a contact sport, or even sometimes a non-contact sport like soccer. I mean, a lot of the injuries are quite similar. So we produced that. I think yesterday in the game that I played in, there was an issue. It wasn't from a player with a disability, but it reminded me that we've produced a code of conduct for players. So, and again, that's accessible, so that those kinds of things are available, and we're happy to share those. Oh, and here is a guide, which I think you put together, Martino.
No, that wasn't me, but I think that was I think needed before the in the lead up to the IMAS, so the international mixed ability rugby tournament in Spain, and we wanted just to acknowledge that rugby is played in different ways in different countries, and somewhere like where we live in England is a massive participation sport. Some other countries like Belgium, well, also even in Italy, is not a big sport in the sense, like you have a very loyal base, but it doesn't necessarily have the same visibility or the same understanding that you can find in large rugby nations. And that also means that rules and regulation change a bit, especially kind of a junior level, where it means like we don't have as many teams as we might have in England. But I think it's important to have an understanding of what mixed ability rugby is when you come and join in these kind of events. That provides a common ground, common understanding. And also, that adheres to what the Mixability Manifesto and the Mixability Ethos is, which is very much try to change what is possible, nothing at all. But I would say the main way of describing it is just reasonable adjustments, like, for example, uncontested scrums, because that's quite widely accepted, especially in the kind of the older and veterans rugby. But also, we are not trained to push in the scrum, so which is probably one of the most kind of dangerous moments of the game. But apart from that, it doesn't change. It's 15 aside. People can lift and line out. The emphasis should be in kind of enhancing the communication. So although it is competitive and people want to win, everyone should have a good time on the pitch, which also means that you can facilitate as the opposition as much as you can facilitate as a teammate, and people should try to verbalize these kind of things and support each other's, but ultimately it's about respecting the fundamental values that we all cherish, especially in rugby, that have been codified. Well, rugby is teamwork, integrity, passion, respect, discipline, and we believe the Mixability can really give a meaning to that. But as we know that there's that might generate discussion, but also it's important to try to stick to the idea that is rugby as we watched at the World Cup or the Six Nation or Sunday leagues or whatever that is.
Ella, could you tell us about your journey into mixed ability rugby? And actually, because I've just seen the shirts that are behind you in the first picture, maybe you could talk about some of the spin-offs that have started to happen as well. I've already mentioned the county stuff, so Mares is another factor, isn't
it? I started playing mixed ability rugby when I was 39 in 2020, just before COVID, the wrong time really. And I came into mixed ability rugby because I saw an advert on Facebook that said that my local rugby club were recruiting people with disabilities and without disabilities, and it was for everyone. And I thought, I've always wanted to play rugby, and I thought I would just go, not really thinking it was for me, but it was. The reason I didn't think it would be for me was because I've had really bad experiences with sport. At school, throughout primary school and secondary school, I wasn't able to play. I was left out of teams, left on the bench by the pupils and by the teachers because I couldn't catch a ball. I didn't understand the rules. I was most of the time I was just standing there looking really confused, not really understanding what was going on. So I just thought sport wasn't for me. So when I left school, I didn't really think anything of it. Didn't do any kind of sport at all, not even the gym. Nothing. But I have always fancied giving rugby a go. So when I saw this advert, I thought that would be brilliant. So I went, and it was for me. And I am now the Yeovil Mixed Ability Women's Captain. In 2023, I got chosen as one of the first women's players to play for the Maris, which is the Mixed Ability Rugby Invitationals, where players are selected from clubs from all over the world, and you're only selected once, so you get a number. Mine's 156, and that's your number for life, and that's your one chance to play. And I did the first women's game, which was amazing to be one of the first women selected.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Ella. And Elliot, I'm hoping we're going to include some of what's led to some great literacy efforts as well in this story.
Thanks, Gooders.
Tell us about your experiences, Elliot.
So when I was in high school, in my later years of elementary school, I was bullied all because that nobody understood why I had autism and ADHD and nobody knew how brilliant I was. So that's how people picked on me and didn't include me and exclude me instead of include me. And nobody wanted me on any of their teams, clubs, or leagues because I was always chosen last and felt anxious, sad, left out, lonely, and depressed. And I was always feeling always all alone and thinking that I had very few friends and not more friends, and I should have been given more opportunities before COVID. But when I found out about the Oshawa Vikings men's mixed ability rugby team, I was included ever since to be the men's team captain, and I now am currently with the Rainbow Griffins Rugby Football Club team in downtown Toronto.
Fantastic. And how does it make you feel being part of a team?
Well, why rugby? Because I can tackle guys that are stronger than me to the ground, and I can feel like that I can be strong and do very impulsive, hard things, and I can learn how to be more inclusive. There's so many great people out there that I made a bunch of friends across the pond and worldwide, and I can also show that I can win tries, get good tries, and win matches for my team, and I can learn about kindness and acceptance and learn that mixed ability sporters or athletes with and without disabilities should be included, treated the same, and accepted and feel welcome like no one else can. And every human being is the same person, no matter how different they are. And rugby can be inclusive to all under all circumstances.
And I think, Elliot, your story of your journey has inspired one or two books as well. Do you want to tell us a few words about that?
Well, the books that I have inspired people with are Mateo's Mixed Ability Match and Elliot's Excellent Mari's Match, and those two books I inspired so many athletes with and without disabilities, and that's where people should be inclusive, and it's all about my lived experience in Ireland, where I was the second place runner-up against the Malone RFC Tornadoes, which is the team I faced in the Maris in Belfast. And that was a book about me being the first team captain to go to Cork, Ireland, and Elliot's Excellent Maris Match, which was a book about my lived experiences being one of the 5 Canadian men mixed ability rugby players to be selected on my behalf based on my commitment and giving back to rugby and all the fundraisers I've done as well for mixed ability rugby too.
Elliot, I think you've got to tell us now. Are these available from all good bookshops and on Amazon?
You can get them off Amazon.ca and you can get it off the Amazon in the UK. And if I bring mixed ability into other parts of the world like South America and the US and Australia and New Zealand, I hope to inspire others from all over the world.
And do I get 5% for helping you to get the message out there?
That's funny, Gutters. You're funny.
Thank you, Elliot. Really appreciate your story. And let's hear from Jade now. Jade, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, my name is Jade, and I'm a rugby player for Oshawa Vikings. And I love Oshawa Vikings because they help me break down my bills and show me how to play contact, flag, and touch rugby.
Now, I've seen you, Jade, score an amazing try. I think it was recorded on a video from a tour that you went on. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So I got my first try in IMAS in Spain, Papaloma, and I got my first try and my first conversion.
So you scored a try in a world tournament?
Yes.
Okay. And I got to ask, I mean, I've barely ever scored a try, let alone one in a world tournament. How does it feel?
It's pretty good because I love rugby and I love traveling and I love being part of Oshawa Vikings.
And there was quite an audience, wasn't there, at the IMAS in Spain last year. Did you go on to take part in any of the other activities? So I think there was a book reading there, wasn't there?
Yes, the book reading, yes.
And what did you do for the first time there?
I read one of Elia's books. So
Out loud to an audience?
yes.
And was that the first time?
Yes.
Awesome.
You're awesome, Jade. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Jade, and thank you because you've just presented to quite a lot of people over this presentation as well, and you spoke really well and really clearly.
Thank you.
I think it goes without saying that there are benefits to the community that you're based in, you as club members. Perhaps reputation is one of the main ones, so that I think you become representative more of your local community, but that's still, for some reason, that's still considered something to aspire to. So I really like the idea that people and clubs are acknowledged for having a mixed ability offer. It does seem, as I think Martino alluded to it right in the beginning, ultimately we would like to make ourselves redundant, and so that this becomes the norm and that every club has a mixed ability offer. But it does, from our experience, it does attract some members back who may have hung up their boots. I think people who want to take on a volunteering role will often come and join in because they feel that they're doing something good in their community and giving something back. The club actually then represents, everybody in the neighbourhood and from the local area. And, it is, well, if you want to be really kind of mercenary about it, there is increases takings and input and gets more footfall through the club. So it genuinely is a kind of win-win having a mixed ability offer. And I don't think I need to sell it any more than that, really. Martino, oh, I'm there actually. The bottom one is the red and grey strip on. That's me and my little boy. I'm the slightly smaller one of the two. Well, I'm a lot smaller than him.
It's kind of half of it, but but I think and I'm sure that in Canada and Ontario as well. I mean, you have experienced that. The people come back to maybe someone used to play rugby and they come back because of the maybe less demanding nature of mixed ability, in the sense you don't have to train 3 times a week and play on the weekend. It should be more sociable, more recreational if you want, and so that allows families to come together. So to maybe for the first time to have an activity, a shared activities together, or maybe initiating the rugby journey for someone who never thought about being able to step into a rugby pitch. And again, we have pictures here from England, from Italy, and we know pretty much that everywhere this happens in Argentina, 2 or 3 generations really have gone onto the pitch, playing together. And yeah, this is something quite exceptional. But it's more like first picture in the left corner is Tom, and Tom again. He was supporting his local club as a water boy and watching his brother, playing for Scotland internationally, and actually, putting the same jersey together and being the same team together is. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what that means, for both brothers. So, and the same for all the other ones.
And there was earlier this season in the UK, there was a mixed ability game where a grandfather, a dad, and the son all pulled on the journey and actually had the first game together ever on the pitch. I mean, yeah, I'm sure nobody imagined that some time ago. So again, mixed ability creates things that you just don't expect sometimes, but really rewarding experiences. Shall I take this, or Ella, do you want to pick up this one? You know the Derby team, don't you? I can pick it up if you don't.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Okay, I think we use this picture in particular to illustrate, I think, what a successful club might look like. And I think you've just got here, you've got, the juniors, you've got a senior men's team, you've got a women's team, um, and also you've got a mixed ability team. And here again, we have siblings in this picture. So the two men are again brothers, and actually both of them play in the mixed ability team, and one of them plays in the first team as well. So a lovely crossover, and mixed ability teams will attract people who are highly skilled at rugby, and coach and support um, those less skilled like myself. Martino, this is about us. I guess it's you to wrap up a little bit.
Yeah, and this is just very much like we know, and so mixability has grown beyond rugby and beyond the UK. In the sense, there are mixability activities now in 20-ish more kind of disciplines, from cricket to boxing to rowing, and again, the charge has been led by clubs. Sometimes national governing bodies come on board, sometimes they don't. But I mean, the point is that no one can object that if someone wants to join their club, they should be allowed to. But I think, the problem is, how do we start? And I think, even if someone wants to start, where do they go? And I think that's where we tend to help. So very much, we co-produce and co-deliver all the resources in terms of education. So whether that is at initial presentations, writing kind of accessible guides for national governing bodies, or delivering in certification accreditation so that people can get, the whole club on board. This is what we do. But also think, crucially, try to expand that kind of network between the club and the community where they live in, which means, exploring potential partnership, with schools, with sector organizations, advocacy group, disabled people-led organizations, because a club doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there are so many assets around that can really feed into this project and making it sustainable. And that's where our expertise is. We won't teach anyone, or we won't coach anyone how to be a good rugby coach, but perhaps we can add something about how to be a good coach altogether, and expand qualities like better communication and developing players, whatever they want to, whichever sports they want to play. So if you want to have a further conversation, we are happy to support, and happy to understand what you need, what your club needs in order to be successful.
Also, Gutters, I just wanted to say not only that I do mixed ability rugby, I also do mixed ability dragon boat racing too, with Pickering Dragon Boat Club Ohana in the Greater Toronto area as well.
Yeah, great. I've recently played mixed ability golf, Elliot, and mixed ability floor curl. I think now we're spreading our wings into different areas, but rugby will always be my first love. Martino, just to say, because I think you've really been foremost in leading the international movement, largely because of your not small skills in languages.
Well, I think that's very much because people are interested, and I think the stories that you heard, people being excluded, that is a universal story. So I think that really resonates with many clubs, and clubs are goodwill, and they want to be more inclusive. And when they hear that that's perhaps an opportunity to not change very much, and using perhaps like the second or third teams to making it more recreational, more inclusive, I think that's where the mix of it really hits home. So the same story is true in South America, in Canada, in Ireland, in Italy, and I think that's where the success has been so far. But we know there's still a lot to do, and many other sports can learn. Rugby is great by default because traditionally people of all kind of shapes, size, skills can play together and do have a specific role in the team. So there's a lot that rugby can teach about. But the same kind of dynamics in terms of communication, support, camaraderie can be found in different sports. So we know that this can work across the board.
And we're relying on you guys to get more pins into the top left-hand corner of this map, please. Okay, so finally, I think one of the things we ought to talk about, sorry, excuse me, I'm just declining a call. One of the things we ought to talk about is how the manifesto has come around. So it's a very simple 6-point manifesto, and it is really about making sure that we are signing up to involve people and not keep them separate anymore. I mean, in summary, that is really it. So it is something that you as a person and you as a club can sign this. It's on the IMAS website. Just sign the manifesto. It's, I don't know, a few hundred, maybe between 300 and 500 strong now. And the more clubs that sign up to it, the more opportunity and chance we've got to push that up the agenda of national governing bodies, I think. I'm going to hand back to Jocelyn, I think, to handle this next bit because I can't see anything on the screen at the moment. So, Jocelyn, are you happy if I just come out of the presentation now, end it for all?
Absolutely. You can see everyone's faces better. So we do have one question in the chat, and for those of you listening, if you've got more, now's the time, put them in, or you can raise your hand as well. But I'll start us off with this one. Debbie asks, what is the greatest barrier to getting this type of program off the ground? And what piece of advice would you give to clubs embarking early on this journey?
I've got a sore throat, Martino. It's your question.
Well, I can add my personal views, Debbie, but I'm sure you have a lot of experience in that area too. So I'm not sure I can add anything that you don't know. But I think people's mentalities are probably the biggest barrier in the sense, we've been used for so long to think about disability in terms of and diversity in terms of absence. People can't do things, people shouldn't be allowed to, and actually flipping the paradigm and say, of course we can, and we all need support for specific things. So that's the kind of mentality we need to embed in everywhere, from funders to policymakers to clubs. And it's quite scary because, what works, creates a comfort zone. And, Paralympics is great, it's good. We all cheer. I mean, like the international teams when they get, but it's not the only options. And again, it's not either or. So trying to explain to those in a position of power that, you can have different opportunities and they all feed into each other and they're not competing. Actually, more people will be active and happier, perhaps, and living longer and healthier lives. That is an educational journey and it takes a lot of time. So that's for us probably has been the biggest barrier up to now. But there are, I guess, encouraging signs. Just the very fact that mixability is growing is a great thing. Probably we won't see the perfect world by the end of our lives, not by the end of mine. But hey, if we can leave something that makes life for other people better, I think that's important. For the club point of view, Gooders, I don't know if you want to add something, but so working across different sports, pretty much the starting questions are always the same, and it's like well, either we don't know anyone with a disability, which means like there's not a lot of links with the community, because we know that at least 1 out of 5 across the world has either long-term conditions or a disability or some form of barriers to participation. So people are out there, the clubs are not always. Or where do we park the wheelchairs? And we know that, or at least statistically, 3% of people with a physical disability use a wheelchair. So it's not just about the ramps and the lifts and everything. So it's that kind of, people use different languages, but your universal design where you think about something that works for everyone by inception. And sports should be, because traditionally is recreation, is using our bodies and making friendships, not just about winning the World Cup. And it's perhaps reframing what sport is for, and that again takes a lot of time. But this is my personal view, and I'll shut up now. So.
I've got just because I think there's a great comment from Laura Armstrong, which says the El Salvador team that we played against at IMAC called Jade Speedy Gonzalez, which is, if you watch the video, she actually is whizzing across the screen to score a try. So that's a good observation. And also, because I'm really, really rubbish at tech, I did see that somebody has sent a question to me, but I don't know how to read it, so apologies. But Jocelyn, if as well as the questions now, if you wouldn't mind posting contact details for myself and Martino as well. And then anybody who's got anything specific, and again, I'm really sorry, I didn't even see who it was that was asking the question, but I can't see it on my chat now, unless anybody wants to.
If that was you and you want to unmute and ask that question, you're welcome to. I'll send out the slides and contact info for our speakers here as well. So if you want to follow up directly with any of them, please do. I'll add as well to Debbie's question. I think Martino's touched on a lot already and all of our speakers throughout the presentation, but one of the common things that I hear or that I see is the capacity issue, is the volunteer burnout of, oh, another program. We're already struggling to run our existing programs. So I think my general advice there is, if we can think of this not as an extra new program we have to run, but can we bring this philosophy, can we bring the Mixed Ability Manifesto to our existing programs? And again, put ourselves out of a job in terms of mixed ability sport needing to be its own discrete thing. And then the other piece that goes with that is sometimes we're asking the wrong people for support, and there are people out there who would be happy to champion this, but they don't know that it's an option, they haven't been asked, or they don't know that you're looking. So that would be my 2 cents there. We've got maybe 2-3 more minutes here. Mark,
I found it. So it's Petra. So hi, Petra. Petra is in the UK at the moment. She's actually she's in Yorkshire, which is where I'm from. And I can tell Petra that the city that she's based in, we had one player came from there yesterday, but I'm also well connected with an autistic referee out there who's inspired us to deliver, to put together a presentation about neurodiversity for the Referee Society up here it's gone to the Lancashire branch at the moment, but we're also hoping to get it into Yorkshire. And Petra, I'd love you to get in touch and be involved. And so please, Jocelyn, if you can just highlight my email address, and we'll link up at some point, definitely.
Thank you. I have a question for Jocelyn. I'm sorry if I have a lot of background noise. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for presenting. It was lovely to hear all your stories and experiences. I just wonder, because I noticed on our Rugby Ontario registration, there's an option for a senior contact and senior mixed ability. So if we do have any registrations in our mixed ability category, can they roster in our Ontario Women's League matches, or do we need separate sanctioning for mixed ability players?
I can follow up on that for you, but to the best of my knowledge, as long as that is set up as a full year contact registration, absolutely yes. Or similarly, full year non-contact, they can play in any non-contact programming you have. The only difference would be, if you're not charging them the same dues and you want to have them upgrade and pay extra dues if they're playing in a different program, that would be a club decision. But yes, as far as I know, the main reason around having that separate mixed ability piece is so that we can actually track numbers, because it's hard for us to say there's been a lot of growth if we can't distinguish between a mixed ability program registrant and any other program registrant. But it's difficult given that we don't necessarily want them to be fully separated. So we know there's a lot of overlap between mixed ability versus just a senior contact or non-contact player.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, if you have more questions, again, we'll connect them into to the speakers. Oh, Ernestine, raise your hand up with a question there. Yeah, unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Through mixed ability rugby, Jade was able to go on to different mixed ability sports, which is great. Her first love is rugby. recently, one of our a member of our management team suggested to Jade that she may want to volunteer at one of the rugby clinics put on by a Canadian rugby player. And Jade went and she loved it. And throughout, she said, I want to be a participant. Well, a few weeks ago, we got an email inviting Jade to be a participant in a rugby clinic that will be held this summer. And for me, that's as a parent with a child with a disability, I was just blown away. And it came from the Oshawa Vikings, the fact that they embraced the Jade and they suggested for her to volunteer and for someone to see and to realize that, do you know what? Let's give this person a chance. So she'll be there with everyone else. No one's going to look at her differently. And her confidence has just soared since she started mixed ability rugby with the Oshawa Vikings. So for me, that's a success story.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a huge thank you again to all of our speakers today for taking the time to share with us, breaking down barriers in our clubs, as we said. And thank you to all of you for joining and listening, or if you're watching the recording, for taking the time out of your day to watch. Great to see, some good questions from the group. I know there's interest in growing, so please do reach out, use our support. I've put the exit survey in the chat there, so if you can use the link, take a few minutes to give us some feedback on the session, and that helps us to plan for our future sessions as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, the recording of this will be posted on our Rugby Ontario YouTube channel, so you can find that there, or if you know other people who missed it and would benefit from listening to this, please share within your communities. Finally, we can watch for registration to be shared for our final club development session happening next Monday night. That'll be on club storytelling with our marketing and communications team, sharing kind of the vision and process behind that club storytelling initiative for this year and how clubs can be a part of it. So we hope to see you there for that. Finally, I'll just put in the link if you're looking for some more support on rugby development and club development in general. But in particular with this group, if you're looking to grow mixed ability at your club and you're not sure where to get started, or you need some support with some of the logistics, we do have our rugby development consultants in place now. So they have office hours, their last one for the spring season this Wednesday evening. So please take advantage, go and talk to them about strategic planning, about project planning, how can you get a program up and running. And then they'll be back in the fall as well with more office hours, and are available throughout the year if your club wants some specific support. So yes, please reach out and use them, connect to us, connect to IMAS, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Guys, later. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.